I'm Matthew Kerbis, the subscription attorney, and this is Law Subscribed, your dedicated source for all things subscriptions and the law. Thank you to my sponsors. See links to them in the show notes. Everything discussed is only for educational and entertainment purposes. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to How to Run a Law Firm in 2025. Last episode, we talked about pricing. So, how do we actually make money? If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it because today we're going to focus on once we've made the money and we've priced well so that we're profitable, how do we manage it in our business? How does the business manage finances? And then, how do you, as a solo or a law firm owner, manage your personal finances that flow from that? So we're diving into all things money today. So Matthew, I'll put it over to you first. What is your overall approach to business finances?
Yeah, it's a great question and one that I probably should have asked myself before I started my law firm. But
We
uh,
all think that, yes.
despite that, when I first met my wife, when we were just dating, we actually had those money conversations pretty early, in particular because I was a law student, she was a working professional, and she had some monthly payments she needed to make, like car payments and some other things, and so she wasn't making a lot of money. But I remember being like, well, like let's just put it in a spreadsheet and let's start tracking, your income, your outgoing, and I was just trying to be like a very helpful boyfriend, like I want her to like me and stay with me, so I will help her with these things. Uh, and like over the years, actually, as we got married, and really even kind of when we just moved in together before we got married, we started to maintain a joint spreadsheet of all these different finances for like our income from our jobs, and measuring that, and then like our spend and going out there. And after we got married, we actually set up a separate spreadsheet that tracked, like we set ourselves a weekly budget. And it's more of like a goal. Like it's not like our actual budget. Like it's not, okay, we only have X amount to spend. And if we spend more than that, we're screwed. It's like, no, we're going to do like 50% of what our actual of like available spending money is post taxes. And we're going to try to spend only that so we could save half of our money. Right. So like that was like the idea. So actually for years, for like close to a decade before I started my own law firm, I already have really good money habits of tracking everything I earn and everything I spend with my partner down to the cent, like literally down to the cent. And so at the time, because I was doing that, so in particular, if you're listening to this and you haven't started your own practice yet, but you're thinking about it, like now is a good time to start identifying your actual personal. This is why this conversation is about law firm finances, but also our personal finances, because when you're starting a practice, running a law firm, like you got to know how much money you need to make so that you can sustain your lifestyle at a minimum, or do you have to reduce your lifestyle in the beginning and then achieve certain lifestyle goals for the money you want to make in your firm? So at least where I got started was not, and on accident, Lauren, as so many things happen, I was just tracking my personal finances so that when I was ready to start, I knew how much money I had to bring in a certain amount of months before we started to have to go into our savings, which we never did, thankfully. How about you when you got started? And frankly, like when you pivoted too, I think is important to talk about.
Yeah, having an idea of how much I needed to make was really critical. And that goes into, frankly, the back end of how you price services, right? Because you want to make sure you're pricing them so that if you sell a number that you can sustain in terms of workflow, it's going to give you that number that you need to live. So I too had sort of pre law firm ownership had a general sense of my personal finances, would track them using different, like Mint was really big one day or one day for a while, and would kind of look through that. I always got caught up in the like to the penniness of it because I always found it really hard when you would have an unexpected expense, like personally. So I would have my budget, right? And this is what we were going to spend. This is what we spend on groceries, and that stuff would average out. And then like the car tire would blow. And I was like, well, I didn't budget for getting new tires. So, like, how do I put that in? So, that I always really struggled with. I had a good sense of what I wanted to earn in my law firm. And certainly in the beginning, wasn't hitting that quite yet. Had to build up to that. But I really loved the shift that I took in terms of managing finances to instead of thinking about them in terms of every single expense and down to the penny, is thinking a little bit more broadly, kind of like the 5,000 foot view of these sort of percentages and buckets. Like, how much do I want to make? What percentage of that is the total revenue coming in? How much do I have to pay in taxes? And then what is operating expenses? And I do the same now in my personal finances as my husband and we just have these sort of buckets. Like, we know how much income comes in and we take, 30% for this and 40% for this and 10% for this. And so that really helped alleviate the unexpected things that came up, because they always happen both in business and personal, but still gave me a really good sense of how much money do we have? What do we have to spend when I make financial decisions? Am I making them based on actual numbers, not just what I feel like is in the bank? So that really helped me get a good grasp of my finances. But having that from day one is so critical, because that will get out from under you real fast.
Yeah, and talking about numbers like this, it's hard without visual aids. But that's sort of the nature of talking about finances, at least on a podcast, where if you're not watching the video, you just have the audio. So we're not even putting up numbers or anything or spreadsheets. Although, frankly, I mean, I will say, like, if you're really interested in how I track my spending for my business, for my personal life, and for my weekly budgets, like, I will make like a demo version, and I'm happy to share that with folks. Just reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn, direct message me. If you're subscribed to lawsubscribe.com, you can message me in response to this post, and you could let me know or send me a direct message on there. But my child, like, just the other day, she's only 4, and she did math for the first time. She and not just like adding and subtracting by 1, which, a lot of kids that are 4 could do it. But she said, driving home, she said, I've had 3 bars today, like chocolate chip granola bars, like Annie's. She said, I had 3 bars today. I had 2 right now and 1 in the morning. I was like, oh my gosh, that's 3 equals 2 plus 1. Audrey, you did math. You did math. And it's important, like, even at an early age, to like cultivate that kind of thing. So like, you can't get started too early with like thinking that math is okay. I don't do calculations in my head. I should also say that's why I have the spreadsheets, and I'm using Google Sheets, right? Like, I'm not trying to do complicated formulas or calculations in my head. I just let the spreadsheets do it for me. And also, the earlier you start, the better, right? And the way that we did it, Lauren, because like tracking by the cent, like, it doesn't really make sense from a traditional budget standpoint. But the reason that we track by the cent is, in the beginning, we were just collecting data. Okay, how much are we spending on groceries? How much are we spending at Starbucks? How much are we spending here? And we just got from the perspective of, if we could collect a year's worth of data on like literally tracking where all our money is going, then we could at least have a benchmark. And frankly, it's a lot easier to do when you have a job and you're not running your own law firm. So if you're already running your own law firm, like, the income isn't necessarily as steady. We'll talk about how to make it steady. But if you haven't started your own firm yet, or even if you have, just get a benchmark, right? Like give yourself a maximum, like, we cannot spend more than this. Only let yourself spend, half or 75% of what you actually can, for those exact moments. Like you said, Lauren, the tire blew out, there was an accident, you need a tree cut down because there was a storm. Like, we had to drop thousands of dollars on cutting a tree down after a storm that was dangerous to the house, right? So that's like, those things happen. But I still put those in the tracking sheet. Like, it's not really so much a budget as it is tracking, because different things like that you cannot predict will come up year over year. And so, if you're buying a new car or leasing a new car and you need to do an extra down payment, right? Things like that, like, things come up all the time, right? And in your business, the versions of that are something I just did, which is I just upgraded a lot of my hardware. And so that's like a massive expenditure that's only going to happen every so many years. But it's good to be tracking that, so you can see, oh, like that, like, yeah, so I might have spent more money back then, but that's why, right? So like, actually, like, keeping a spreadsheet. And the reason I like to do a spreadsheet, and I'm also curious about your perspective on this, is by tracking every cent, not necessarily budgeting every cent, but tracking every cent, and manually doing it, not just relying on a Mint, or like in the business way of accounting. Like, it forces me to think about how I'm spending my money, or my wife, how she's spending her money, our money, right? We're spending each other's money, right? So like, by forcing yourself to like input the thing and think about it, now you're consciously aware of it. You're not just a passive consumer. And in particular, as a business owner, like, that puts you in the mindset of, okay, now I'm selling something to somebody and they're purchasing something from me. They're going to have to make an active purchase. And so I think that helps with the business side of it too. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to admit that despite all of my tracking personally, the first probably 3 years of the law firm, I didn't do a great job of tracking expenses. It was like one bank account and the expenses would just come out and I would hope that there was money to pay. And my goal honestly was don't let the bank account get like below $1,000. I mean, it was like there was this sort of floor to it. It was so rudimentary and not a great approach because I couldn't tell you at that point what I was spending on. I had kind of a sense of what I was paying myself, although it wasn't always consistent. And that was it. Like it was real terrible. And that benchmark in 2019, I had to do that. I had to sit down and go, okay, what have I been spending for the last 3 years? And it was like, ugh, this is more than I thought. So being able to track it from the beginning allows you to make much more informed decisions. I did mine on a spreadsheet. I do it now twice a month. I am on top of it. Know what all of the money coming in and the money going out is. And I think it's really helpful to track it, like you said, Matthew, for just knowing, oh, that big spike in spending was because I had to buy, a new monitor. Okay, that's not going to be consistent. Last year, I had a 5% increase in my overall operating expenses. So not my pay, but just stuff that I have to pay for. And I didn't love it. Like, I got to the end of the year and I was like, okay, I know exactly why it went up. I was doing this online subscription kind of learning platform. And I had to really think about, am I getting the value for this? Like that, 5% may not seem like a lot, but I'd much rather have that 5% in my pocket than paying out to someone else. So I canceled it, right? And it's going to significantly reduce my expenses so far this year. But just knowing what you're spending on and being able to really evaluate, is it worth it for the business? Am I getting the value out of it for what I am paying? If I am, but I'm not making as much, then that's really a much easier conversation to say, okay, I do want to make an extra $500 a month. How can I do that? All right, I need to sell one more client or I need to add 3 more subscriptions or whatever it is. You can really make informed decisions by having that data at your fingertips and tracking it from the beginning.
Yeah, and it's easier to track than ever in terms of the finances, right? And talking about bank accounts, I just found a local bank, which happened to be one of the, it's like the, fifth or sixth or seventh largest bank in the United States, but it's local. A lot of my business, a lot of my clients are local, so I wanted to support local. They ended up having an amazing app. And like, I don't know, I'm on the fence. Like, do I tell people where I bank on a podcast that's everywhere? Like, I don't want to be the victim of like any sort of like attacks or anything. So like, I'm not actually going to say where I bank, but I really love it. The app is amazing. The online interface portal is great. And I was able to open up an IOLTA account. Go back and listen to one of our earlier episodes. We talk about how that, like, no matter how great your bank is, then we do that every so often. So good luck. You're going to have to go in and sign some paperwork probably. You can't just do one of those online. Although I wish you could. And then I have a savings account. And I actually like learned about that from like representing business clients. I was like, oh yeah, like like when they're getting set up or they're starting a new business, it was really from a client, an entrepreneur client who had experience. Like he was like, all right, we're starting a new business. Let me know when this is ready so I can set up all my bank accounts. I was like, all your bank accounts? He's like, yeah, well, we're setting up this, we're setting up that, we're setting up that. So I just have 3. I have my operating account. I have a lot more bank accounts because I have other businesses too. But like for my law firm, operating account, savings account, and and my IOLTA account, my client trust fund, which I've only ever held money in escrow in there once in 3 years. Like it's just the nature of my business and Illinois rules around fees, and how I charge. I don't need to use the IOLTA account. I'm not holding on to like settlement funds. So having said all that, like those 3 accounts, I'm able to sign in and I'm able to just transfer money between them. Right. Cause I was like, oh, how do I pay myself? Like, what's like the actual mechanism of paying myself? I sign into my account and I transfer from my, and actually what we also did is we used to have a couple of personal checking accounts and saving accounts in other places. Our savings account is still the same. It's the highest rate you can get for just like an online account. But then our personal checking accounts, we actually made a new one at the same bank where I was doing the business banking because we really liked it. The app was great, easy interface, local bankers. And so now it was as simple as just like signing in to my master account because you could have account for each, for your personal, for your business. I have a second business there because I like it so much. And so I sign it to like a super account that can manage all of them. And I'm just able to transfer money through the transfer feature in the banking app. And that's how I pay myself because I'm also just a pass-through entity for tax purposes. I'm not treated as an S corp, at least not yet. And that's how I pay myself. And I don't, and it's all taxable because of that. Right. But I'm only paying myself a certain amount. And I try to transfer like at least half of like what I made in a month into my savings account for my business and the other half into my personal. Like that's what I've decided to do, what is sustainable for my business right now. But that is also something I wasn't able to figure out in the first year and a half. I didn't really have like higher recurring revenue until I was like into year 2. And especially in this last third year and going into year 4, I have a better sense of what my recurring revenue is because I leverage the subscription model. And I primarily base that 50% on my subscription recurring revenue, not when I do a one-off project like a simple estate plan or analyzing like a severance agreement for a client they're paying per page. That's just money that's just going right into my savings account. And I always maintain, I also maintain a separate like column in my tracking spreadsheet where I see like what are my credit cards and like what are the balance on the law firm business credit cards because frankly I just have them on auto pay because I like the most I could the most I could automate the better. The more I automate the better. So and I'll talk about credit cards next, but like basically then that way I know how much I have to keep and I always give myself a buffer of like another $1,000 just to make sure there's more than enough to cover random withdrawals or whatever. Most recently, my malpractice insurance provider made it so that they were going to give me a surcharge if I charge it to my credit card. So
Dang.
starting, well, who knows when this is going to go live, but starting in like early 2025, I've had to just make it a direct deposit to save like the 3-4%. So like that's money that's going to be coming out. So that's going to be just a standing amount in this column of how much I need to keep in my account. And I also do that personally for all the personal credit cards and what those balances are, because those are all on auto pay. I just am able to look at these columns. I'm like, okay. And just once a month, right? Like whenever I get all my statements in, I just go in there, I put in each column or each row, what the amounts are for each credit card balance. And that's the total amount that we need in our personal account and that we need I need in my business account for the automatic payments. And other than that, everything's going into the savings account and 50% of my subscription revenue is going from my business savings. I transfer all into my business savings and let it sit there because I want to get some interest. And then I'll pay myself. Typically what I'll do is I'll pay myself in like the third week of the month. I just pay myself once a month in the third week of the month. Because at that point also, just in case I need to pay myself a little bit more, maybe we like reupholstered a couch or something, like I could at that point see, okay, what's the balance of every account? And it's all it's really in 3 spreadsheets, but I could look at 2 primarily because I do like to keep personal and business actually separate. And so anyway, that's a lot. And we'll talk about credit cards as the next topic, but Lauren, like, how are you managing all that stuff?
Yeah, it's similar, and I do wanna say it is so smart that you are focusing mostly on your known recurring revenue and transferring half of that versus half of all of the revenue, because that you can certainly rely on, and the extra is kinda just gravy. So that
Mhm.
was I was thinking that's a really smart way to do that and why subscription is so wonderful, and I wish I could incorporate it into my practice more, but so I was a pass-through entity for the first 3 full years, so until 2019, and then for the last 6, 7 years now, I can't do my math. I too use spreadsheets for all the calculations. I have made the S corp election, so my finances are a little bit different. I use the Profit First method, which is by Mike Michalowicz, great book, really simplified my finances, but I only have 1 operating account, 1 business checking account. I also have a trust account. That's all I have for the law firm, but I really don't use my bank account as the measure. Like that, I go in there to transfer money, but I don't go in there to see how much money there is. Instead, I have a spreadsheet that takes every dollar that comes in. I do this twice a month on the 15th, or excuse me, the 10th and the 25th. Take every dollar of revenue that came in, and then I allocate it between 4 buckets. So I have a profit bucket, an owner's pay, which is mostly my salary, a tax bucket. So when the tax man comes, I've got money for him, and then operating expenses. And so I think that they're 5, 55, 20, and 20 or 25, whatever that math is, somewhere in there is what the percentages are right now. And so I then have those columns and they just keep a running tally what's in each sort of bucket. So I know, kind of like you, Matthew, like there's a limit, right? So I always need to have X number of dollars in my owner's pay because for me, I have to pay myself on a salary now. And then I have additional owner's distributions on top of that. But I need to run payroll every month. I pay myself once a month, and that has to be able to come out. So I like to keep 2 months of runway to have enough in that bucket, so I know that the money's always there. So it's same kind of approach, having that buffer, just a slightly different, formula for it. But I twice a month go in. On the 10th of the month, I run payroll, so I pay myself on the 15th of every month, and my salary comes out. And then on the 25th of the month, I make additional owner's distributions. And those are pretty set. I can certainly take out more. Like you said, if, the tree falls in the backyard or we have an unexpected expense in our family and I know I need to pull a little bit more out, I can do that. But I try and make it pretty consistent just so I can keep track. I pay myself to pay my loan off on the 25th of the month. I take the money out because that's going to be pulled out the next month. And like you, I just make transfers. I use 2 different banks. So my business bank is different than my personal bank, but I think a lot of banking systems now you can set up those external accounts. And so I just set up the payroll gets pulled out automatically out of my business checking account, but I make those other transfers to my personal account just manually once a month to the different accounts that they need to go in. And then I'm always, again, almost every 2 weeks, just checking, are there enough in each of those buckets, right? Is operating expenses getting too low? Because I know, every month, $2,000, whatever it is going to have to come out. So that really allows me to stay on top of things and not be so in the weeds of tracking every single penny every single day, but having kind of a 5,000-foot view. But yeah, those systems are really helpful once you get them in place.
Let me tell you about the brand new sponsor for Law Subscribed, Paxton. I've been using Paxton as my legal AI tool for over 2 years. I continue to evaluate and demo other legal AI tools in the market and still decide to stick with Paxton because of its reliability, its accuracy, its ease of use, affordability, and they do not lock you into a long-term contract. Now, as a transactional and fractional general counsel attorney, I'm using Paxton for all of my substantive and non-substantive legal work, whether that's legal research, analysis, drafting, or enhancing existing legal work product. In the time it used to take me to draft and analyze legal documents, now, after a little bit of back and forth with Paxton, I have something ready to go in minutes that used to take hours or even days. While I'm no longer a litigator, I could see how valuable Paxton would be when researching a new issue, preparing for a deposition, drafting a motion, or going to trial. So if your firm would benefit from using Paxton as your legal AI tool, then make sure to use the link in the description when signing up to let Paxton know I sent you. That's all about our new sponsor. Now back to the show. Look, it's not like the way I'm doing it or just the way Lauren's doing it are the only ways to do it. That's just the way that works for us. And there's no one right way to do it, right? It's like I only have one kid now, and I can't just think if I have a second kid, like everything about this kid is going to work for the second kid. Because as I've heard from parents with multiple kids, oh no, like they have their own personalities, right?
Yep.
But so we all have our own personalities, and we all different things work for us. One of the reasons why I like that methodology, which is great for a lot of people. I mean, I've had experts on Law Subscribed about profit first method, because I think it's something that that will work with a lot of lawyers, the way that lawyer brains tend to work. It just doesn't work for me. But I still try to keep things as simple as possible. So like I know in my subscription tech stack tracking that I track, I have 20 fixed operating expenses annually. And so I know at a minimum, right, like I'm going to be spending a little less than $8,000 on the law firm for fixed operating expenses. Now, like if I like this year, I upgraded and bought a bunch of new equipment. Like I don't think I quite doubled it, but I spent I almost doubled it, in the last 12 months. So that's something that, I have to account for every so many years. But I know I'm not going to do that all the time. But I still think it's a good idea to have an idea of what are your fixed operating expenses. And that's a hint at what's coming up for our next episode, which is like, how do I make it so my fixed operating expenses are only less than $8,000, right? No greater than $8,000, because there are tips and tricks to that. And some of that has to do with tracking and everything. But going into, it's not quite, well, I mean, look, it's law firm finances, and that is the credit cards of it all. And like in the beginning, when you don't know what your income is going to be, if you're just getting started, like one of the ways that you get, and I think everybody should get a business credit card. Like you have to do it smart. And actually, it was Jaden Doye who came on my podcast. I met him as a co-speaker at an ABA Tech Show, and he is a CPA for lawyers specifically, and he leverages the subscription model. That's how he serves lawyers. Well, one of the things he said, I can't remember if he said it like actually in the interview or if he said it to me just like when we were having like our post-interview conversation. He's like, well, you might as well get a credit card because it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And then plus the points, right? Like you're just getting rewarded for spending money. And if you're listening to Lauren and I and you're being smart about tracking your money and smart about tracking personal and business finances, then you're never going to be in a situation where like you're accruing interest on credit card payments. You're just automatically paying all that off because you're being smart about tracking and spending and everything. So I decided at that point, I was maybe like not quite a full year into my law firm at the time, that I would talk to the business banker. Again, we're reason to use like a local bank. And she said to me, well, like, let me apply for you because like if you like have to apply and you have to put in your revenue numbers, you're still such a new business, like you're going to have a really low credit limit. And I was like, well, I'm not spending a lot of money anyways. So like, I don't really care. She's like, no, trust me, give me the information. Let me apply for you on your behalf as the business banker at this bank, and you'll get a much higher credit limit just in case. You never know. I said, okay. And it's always like I could not make any money and I would never exhaust that credit limit like for a whole year, right? Like it's like tens of thousands of dollars. So like that was great. Every credit card has different like rewards types of things. And for me in the beginning, I just wanted everything to be under one roof. So that's why I just went with a business credit card. So I have a business debit, which I never use anymore. That's associated with the business checking account. That's like away in my safe. Like that's not anywhere. No reason to use that anymore. Changed over all my automated subscriptions and payments to the new business credit card so I could start getting that minimum 1% back. But what was nice about this one is for restaurants, or if I'm ever like going out to a networking event where there's like food, or if I'm hosting a client or clients for like a meal, I get 3% back. And so that's pretty good. So even though I have two other business credit cards now, I still use like that's the one I have on my person because I only have three cards on me at a time because of my phone. I have like a MagSafe wallet that attached to my phone. I can only bring three cards, and so I have my ID, my driver's license. I have a personal credit card and I have a business credit card, and that's the business credit card I have because the only time I'm ever going to be using a credit card in person is probably at a restaurant, and so that's a card I still use. But what I also found out, and this is really cool, and I didn't know this, and nobody told me about this. So like major life hack right now and business hack is if you are an Amazon Prime member, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are because like everyone, I mean, Lauren, are you an Amazon Prime member?
Of course.
Of course. So I don't know if you knew this, so maybe you'll learn something here
Yeah,
too.
I'm like on the edge of my seat.
Okay, so I'm a huge maximizer when it comes to maximizing subscription benefits. Obviously, I'm the subscription attorney. So, as it turns out, with Amazon Prime, what you could do is you could get an Amazon Prime credit card so that you get 5% back on Amazon purchases, Whole Foods purchases. There might be like some other things in there, like Amazon Fresh and some other stuff. So in our household, we know that whenever we buy stuff on Amazon or we buy stuff from Whole Foods, we always use that Amazon. It's like through Chase. It's like an Amazon, like a Visa through Chase credit card. And then, it's set up, to order online, and, you check out with like a QR code if you're going in person, which we so rarely do. Well, then I found out you could also get, if you have a business and you have a personal Prime account, you can activate as an Amazon business owner. You set up, it's a totally different website. It's a totally different app on your phone. It's Amazon for Business. And you create an account using your law firm email. Hopefully you have a separate personal email that you're using for your personal one. And if you don't, set up an email alias. It's easy to do. Then what you could do is you can activate that Amazon business account and you can get Business Prime for being a personal Prime, and you're not actually paying any more money. So now as a business Prime member for Amazon, you get access to all these additional deals that are only available to Amazon business Prime accounts that you otherwise wouldn't get if you're like buying stuff using your business credit card in your personal Amazon account, which you should never don't buy personal stuff and have to reimburse yourself. It's making yourself have extra work to do. Like use your business credit card in your personal account if that's what you're going to do. Otherwise, set up a business account on Amazon. If you're a Prime member, activate the Business Prime account. And then one of the subscription benefits you get for having a Business Prime account, not just all the deals that you are only available to Business Prime members, but also you could get a 5% back Amazon credit card for your business. And that's powered through American Express. And so I never thought I would ever have an American Express card because I'm like, I'm not paying an annual membership for a credit card. Like, no, thank you. Like, why would I ever do that? Well, you don't have to when you get the Amazon 5% back credit card that's powered through American Express. Right, what's kinda cool is, like, I actually have access to, like, 7 different bank accounts or, like, bank apps because I have all these different credit cards across, like, various platforms, so I'm able to compare them all against each other. So now I only use this card when, I'm buying something on Amazon for my business, and now, like, that happens, like, every so often, and what I also do, since we're talking about law firm finances, is I save things to the list, like, I just have 1 list for my law firm because 'cause I'm a small operation, it's just me. If I had, like, a team, I'd probably have multiple lists on Amazon because they will notify you when there's a deal on something on your list, and then you could go and you get 5% back on top of that, and this is true with your personal Amazon Prime card as well as your business one, is if you do no rush delivery, you can get 6 or 7% back, and there are certain times you can get, like, up to, like, 8 or 9% back if they're doing some kind of promotion. Like, I don't need this thing in a hurry. I might as well get the extra percent back. And for all of my credit card rewards, you could integrate them with Amazon, and you could some of them limit you, like, you can't redeem it until it's up to $25, and I'm not buying a lot of things, so, like, it actually takes a long time for 1 to 5% to get up to $25 in rewards, but on Amazon, if they're integrated with your points, you could just redeem them for any purchase. Like, right there, no matter how much it is, or what I usually do is I redeem it for a gift card in the exact amount so that I could, like, pool all the points to, like, purchase things in the Amazon Business Prime account. And what's really cool is if you're patient and you pay attention, like, I think I got, like, a $400 Amazon gift card for my business when I signed up for this credit card and got approved. And that's how I bought my expensive $400 audio mixer. I was like, "Oh, I might as well." Like, so you gotta take advantage of these, like, financial offerings. The last credit card tip I'll give, sorry, I've been talking for a while, Lauren.
No, this
Um
is fascinating.
yeah, so the last credit card tip I'll give, and I didn't, like, just get all these credit cards, like, I think I got, like, 1 credit card a year, like, for the 3
Mm.
years that I've been in business, but you gotta take advantage of, like, those types of offerings, like the $300, $400 gift card, right? Try to take advantage of that. We're talking about law firm finances, this matters, and, you know, depending on, how well your firm is doing, when you spend money in your law firm, like, that is kinda taking money out of your pocket, like, not really, like, you don't wanna think about that too much. It's, like, money you could theoretically pay yourself, right? So, like, yeah, take advantage of these deals. And Amazon even was like, "Are you sure you wanna use this gift card?" And, like, I don't know, like, lawyer brain went off, and I was like, "Well, I got it because it was a business thing." And it's like, sure, I could expense it, but, like, I felt bad about, like, gifting myself 400, like, I don't know what the tax consequences of that were going to be. So I used the gift card on my business because that's why I got the gift card. Whatever. So, what I found out then in my 3rd year is I was gonna do this massive hardware upgrade because Apple released these M4 chips in their Mac Minis. So I knew I was gonna spend a lot of money on a new hardware upgrade. So if you're thinking about something like that, I found that Chase offers a business ink card that it's 1.5% back on just everything. So it's regardless of meals or, gas or whatever, because I think the other bank credit card I have might be 2% back on gas, but, like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm a virtual law firm. So 1.5% back on everything. So now I can, in a sense, increase my rewards by 50% because I went from 1% to 1.5% on all my subscriptions, my software subscriptions that I'm paying for with that credit card. So it's like, well, that's great. And if you spent, it was like $6,000 within the first 3 months, then you got $900 credit towards those rewards. So I timed my applying to that card, and that was an end of year special because usually it's like $500. Sometimes I've seen 750, so it was like up to 900. So I already knew I was going to have like a $4,000 to $5,000 expenditure, and then I would just transfer my card, my automated payments over to that card, and I would easily in the next, you know, 3 months spend another $1,000, right? And I did, and I was able to do it in enough time that I was able to actually use the $900 to, like, bring down the balance before paying off that, like, massive, credit card bill, right? So I was able to time that right to maximize the rewards with the credit card, and now I have higher, monthly rewards because I'm getting instead of just 1% back, getting 1.5% back, which at first might not seem like a lot, but over time in aggregate, cumulatively, it really adds up. So there's all my law firm credit card financial tips. None of this is financial advice, just for educational purposes only.
Wow. How do you keep track of all of those? Like,
I
the balances and what you've paid and what has a balance, and that's all I could think of, like, this is amazing, but I would lose track of them.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, this is what I talked about in the beginning, right? So like I have a column in my law firm tracking spreadsheet that's just like what are the last statements, because it's like with auto pay with the credit cards is you're not paying off the full amount for whatever reason. The credit card companies don't want you to be able to like automate that payment, right? But what they do let you do is they let you pay up to the last statement amount automatically, and then no interest accrues, right? And so I just, as soon as I get the statement, it goes into that column in the spreadsheet, and I see, and that's going to happen. And then they all kind of get paid out around the same time. Like it's like in the third week, or yeah, I think the third week of the month. So in the fourth week of every month, so at the end of every month, I'll have the statements for the next month, and I just put them in the column, and I know, okay, that's the balance. I have to add a minimum, and I always add $1,000 to that number. Like I have to have that plus $1,000 in my business checking account so that it's there when the payments come out, and that's it. And I've thankfully been in a place where I've never had to like transfer money from my business savings to my checking account to make that payment, because the income that I had coming in was more than I just didn't transfer. Like the month that I had to pay off that massive credit card bill to get all the new equipment, like I just didn't transfer any money into my savings that month, basically, is what happened. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. I only have one business credit card. It is the Chase one. So I use it just like that. All of my business purchases go on it. I use as much as I can where I don't get hit. Like some folks, yeah, will pass along the 3 or 4% to you. So then I'll just do a ACH transfer. But I use that one. It keeps it simple for me. I do pay the whole thing off on the 10th and 25th of every month. And that's because in the beginning, when I wasn't doing my finances super well, I did run up a credit card bill because the revenue just wasn't there and I needed to pay for some things. And so I ran that probably into year 2 and 3. And so when I switched to Profit First, the first year of the profit portion of my buckets was used to pay off credit card debt. I have not had any since, because I finally figured out my finances and a much better way to manage it. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. I think, going out and doing some contract work or work unrelated to legal if you need to be able to not incur business debt. But, sometimes it happens and it's okay. And as long as you've got a plan for getting out of it, I think that that's an okay approach to take. But I rack up all the points and then I just transfer whatever they are at the end of the year, like towards my balance. So just kind of pay myself back with it, I guess. But Chase makes it super easy to do that. And yeah, like you, that's the one of the few credit cards I keep with me. And all of my online purchases are run through there. And I pay it the whole thing off, whatever the balance is, twice a month. And they are really great tools to use if you can get a good credit limit on them. Like you said, if you need to buy some hardware, you've just got a big expense coming up, they're nice to know that you've got that resource there, but certainly don't lean on them, especially when you're first starting out. Really be as lean as possible because you don't want to get into that cycle of credit card debt with, 25% interest, and that just keeps rolling the snowball bigger.
Yeah. So final notes then, Lauren. I see you've got it here in our notes about the quarterly tax estimates, monthly payroll taxes. Since for me, my CPA firm, they just when they do my taxes, they're like, here's the amount that you need to pay quarterly moving into the next year. And I immediately go online and schedule those payments to go out. Right. So like that's how I handle it. That's simple, but you're actually paying yourself through payroll. So I'll let you wrap us out with that conversation.
Yeah, so my payroll is probably more simple than other firms. So it's just me, but I do run that once a month. And then every month I have to go in and make the payroll tax deposits to the government. So that's the employer's portion. And then my portion as an employee. Of course, it's the same me. So it always feels weird, but I make those once a month. And then every quarter I go in, and the way that I do it for my personal estimated tax payments is I just look at the revenue for the month minus the expenses. And then my CPA has kind of given me a percentage that's pretty safe. So I take whatever it is, 13, 15, 20% of that, and then I make that payment. I will say that's not necessarily the best way to do it, because I have learned that the IRS would like consistent estimated payments, but when you don't have consistent income, it's a little hard to sort of know into the future how much I'm going to earn for 2025 to be able to make consistent payments throughout 2025. So there is a penalty that I have to pay every year which is annoying. It's only a few $100, but for me right now, it's better than overpaying by tens of thousands of dollars, quite frankly, to then just get that back. I'd rather have that in real time. So talk to your CPA. I have done that based on his advice. So I'm not passing that advice on to anyone listening. But if you do have that S Corp election, whether you have your accountant do it, which would be helpful, but for me, it's not terrible, and I'll save the cost on that. You do have to be aware that you have to make those estimated payments. You have to make reports for the estimated payments every quarter too. So you not only have to make the payment, you have to file a report. So it's a little bit to it, not overwhelming, but you do have to be aware of it. If you're not doing it, make sure somebody certainly is doing it for you.
Yeah, and really it comes down to opportunity cost too. And so like it's better to have the money now than like and pay the couple $100 or whatever it is rather than, yeah, like you said,
Give the government a free loan. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. Right. So sounds like it's worth the opportunity cost to me. If I was in your shoes, I'd make the same decision there. Well, with that, we'll wrap up this conversation on managing law firm finances, personal finances. And while we didn't cover too much about bookkeeping and using Wave Accounting, we'll wrap that into our next conversation on how the heck do we keep our expenses at a reasonable amount when running a law firm in 2025. And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Make someone's day by sharing this episode with them. The best way to get in touch is to follow and message me on LinkedIn. To get extra content, subscribe to the newsletter at www.lawsubscribe.com, where you can also become a paid subscriber to get episodes and content early. Until next time, this is Matthew Kurbis with Law Subscribed.